Hi, and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today I'll be doing a review and a tutorial for a Casio GW 9400, better known as the Rangeman. Now, when this watch was introduced in 2013, it was an answer to prayers from a lot of G-Shock fans, me included, because this was the first G-Shock model to include the full ProTrack package, or the ABC functions, the triple sensor technology. Up until then, you could always get some of the sensors, but not all of them in one package. So let's say if you got a Rangeman, you would get an altimeter and a barometer with a thermometer, but you would lack the compass. To get the compass, you would have to get a Mudman, but if you got that, you wouldn't have the barometer and the altimeter. So it was always an either-or situation with Casio until they introduced this model. On this model, they included everything, the full ABC package. So this was the first model to feature the altimeter, the barometer, the compass, and thermometer. So the whole deal. At the same time, it was introduced with the new V3 version of the sensors, which were the latest at that year, and they were also introduced in 2013. Now, these sensors, according to Casio, spend up to 90% less energy than the V2, the previous generation. But at the same time, the measurements are a lot more accurate and they last longer. So compared to the V2, the V3 compass that's in this model will take a reading for a full minute or 60 seconds, whereas the V2 version was only doing it for 20 seconds. Then when it comes to the altimeter, this one can measure down to 1 meter, which still impresses me even today, while the V2 version was going down to 5 meters. So unless you made a difference of 5 meters, it wouldn't register the difference in height. At the same time, you got all these functions in a G-Shock case, which meant that you got a watch that was vibration resistant, shock resistant, water resistant to 200 meters, and on top of all that, the Rangeman is also mud resist. At the same time, beside the ABC functions, this watch came fully loaded with the usual Casio tech. So as you can see, it's solar and it's atomic, which means, and it's a multi-band 6. Now that means that this watch is self-charging on any kind of light. It's also self-adjusting, which means that as long as you're in the area of these 6 towers in the world, this watch is always going to be accurate. It will always adjust itself, and even the DST setting is going to be adjusted automatically. When it comes to other functions, the watch has a world time function with 31 time zones and 48 cities. It has a 24-hour stopwatch that goes down to 1/100th of a second. It has a 24-hour timer that can be set down to a minute. It's got 5 alarms, with one being a snooze alarm. It's got a sunrise and sunset data, so for each date you can determine when the sun is going to rise or set. You have the recall or the log function, where you can store different readings and then you can check them afterwards. And the watch has a full auto EL, which means that in the dark, when you turn it on, as long as when you tilt it to your face, it's gonna light up the display. So all in all, it's really a fully loaded package from Casio that includes almost every technology they ever had. Now, one more thing that I wanted to mention about this model is that there are actually 2 versions. And when I say 2 versions, I'm not talking about color variations, because there's a lot more of those. But I'm talking about the difference between a Japanese domestic model and an international model. Now, usually, let's say if you have the Seiko SKX where people 007, where people always ask what's the difference between a J and a K, Japanese and export model. On that watch, you don't have any physical difference. I mean, other than it says the J and everything, and sometimes it says made in Japan, but quality-wise, they're the same. Although some people claim that one is more of a higher quality than the other. But on Rangeman, you actually do have a physical difference, and that's the strap. Now, on an international model, on export models, the strap is regular Casio resin. On a Japanese model, the strap is actually resin molded with carbon fiber insert. And the idea behind it is to make the strap last forever in a way. So even when the resin falls apart, the carbon part is going to hold the watch in place. Now that's an okay idea, but to me it doesn't make a lot of sense, because by the time the resin falls apart on your regular resin, on the carbon it's going to fall apart as well, and the strap is probably going to look so horrible that you're going to want to change it anyways. So, but it's a nice tech, and it gives that extra feeling of security. The Japanese market models are characterized by the J letter in the last three or last four letters in the code of the model. However, they do command a higher price, and that's something that you need to decide whether or not it's worth it to you to pay a lot more to get the carbon fiber strap. To me personally, it's not really that important, so I have to admit that I don't really care about it much. However, it does look cool, that I have to admit. The only difference between this and the fully fledged ProTrack model is that this model does not have the track log function like the ProTracks, and the second thing is that it doesn't have the dedicated ABC button. So as you can see, you have here only one sensor button, so pressing this you toggle between the ABC functions, so altimeter, barometer, compass. On a ProTrack model, each ABC function has its own dedicated button, so that's the only difference. Now, this is a small price to pay when you get the G-Shock toughness, like I said, vibration resistant, shock resistant, and water and mud resistant. Now, when we're talking about the toughness, I do need to touch on a little subject, and I know it's going to probably cause a lot of flames in the comments, but I just wanted to mention it, and it's the lugs. Yes, the dreaded lugs that have been discussed to death on different forums. And the thing is that some people have experienced broken off lugs on their Rangeman. Now, it's a really small amount of people, and they usually included people that were messing with the band, putting the NATO adapters and everything. Now, my personal opinion about this is that I don't think Casio made the lugs weak, by no means, and I'm not really worried that my Rangeman is going to have a failure of the lugs. So on that regard, everything's okay with the watch and you can wear it worry-free. However, I do have to mention that I do not agree with Casio to replace regular spring bars with these steel rods. So as you can see, these screws are actually what are holding the strap to the case. And now, what does that mean? I mean, it looks like a good idea, and it's in their pursuit of toughness that they've put this on. However, what they did is that they moved the weakest, or the breaking point, which used to be a $2 spring bar. Now they've moved it to the case, because now the weakest link is the case. That's a $200 case. So in case you do, I'm not saying that the watch is going to fall apart by regular wear, but if you do push it beyond its limit, it's not going to cost you a $2 spring bar, but a $200 case, and that's almost the price of a whole new watch. So to me, that is a bad design decision, but that's just my opinion. Despite that, I do love a Rangeman, so as you can see, I'm wearing one while I'm reviewing one. So I do love it, and I do think it's one of the best G-Shocks that Casio ever made. And this is it when it comes to the watch itself and to the review part. Now we're going to move to the tutorial, where I'm going to explain to you how to set up everything and how to use all the functions. Okay, so the first function that you have displayed is your home time function. And as you can see, in this mode, the watch displays the hours, the minutes, the seconds, the month, the date, and the day. Over here you have the DST, which stands for daylight savings time, and when you can see it on the screen, that means that the daylight savings time is on, or the summertime. Over here you have the multifunction wheel, which in this mode counts the seconds, and as you can see, it counts each and every second. To the left you have the little PS, which stands for power save, and that means that the power save function is currently on. What that means is that the watch will turn its screen off at 10 p.m. and it's gonna leave it like that until 6 a.m. or until it's exposed to light, or you use any of the functions. And over here, these little lines that form a pyramid of a sort are actually the RC indicator, or the receive indicator. And this means that the watch has successfully synced the night before. So whenever you see this on the screen, that means that the watch is accurate down to the second because it received the signal successfully the night before. And the watch is going to try to receive the signal up to 5 times in the night. So it's going to start at 2 a.m. If it fails, it's going to repeat it at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and 6 a.m. And one of these, as long as one of these is successful, this little triangle is going to show up and it's going to cancel all the next attempts to save on the battery. And the watch also displays here the battery level. So as you can see, it can be L, M, or H. Now it's currently at H, which means high. Now you want to keep the battery at least at M or H, because then all the functions are going to be enabled. If the battery drops down to low, it's the watch is going to shut down certain functions like the atomic timekeeping, and some of the sensors are not going to work the way they're supposed to. So just make sure you keep the watch at M or H, and to do so, just wear it normally. You don't have to be very careful about, I don't know, leaving it in the sun or under LED lights, because these watches are pretty efficient. Just one thing to avoid is do not store them in dark places for months or weeks, because that can damage the battery. I mean, it can survive, but you will probably be lowering the battery's life, so avoid doing that. Now, to adjust the things that you can do while in this home screen is you can, by pressing this adjust button, you can change or toggle between what's shown on this little screen. So at the moment the watch is showing the day of the week, or Sunday. If you press the adjust, it's gonna show you the graph of the barometric readings or pressure readings. And each one of these dots is 2 hours. So it's gonna show you the last 42 hours. And if you track this, you will be able to predict the weather. So if this is going downwards, the weather is going to go bad. If it's going upwards, the weather is going to go good from bad. And if it's like this, that means that the weather is pretty stable. It's going to stay the way it is. So it's a pretty useful feature. Pressing the adjust, you toggle back to displaying the day of the week. By pressing the lower button, this forward button, you have the instant access to a stopwatch, which is a pretty cool function. So if you want to measure something, you don't have to go into the stopwatch, but just pressing the lower button, you go into the stopwatch and it starts by itself. You can then you're in the stopwatch. You can stop it, reset it with the upper, and return back to the home time. Okay, now as you can see with the mode button, you go through different modes. However, since it does have a lot of modes, to return to the home screen at any time, you just press and hold the mode button for 3 seconds. And there, you're back to the home screen. Now, pressing the upper button doesn't do anything right now, but if you press and hold it, it's going to record the screen. So, like I said, this watch has a recall function where you can record different readings and then look them up later. So, one of the things that it can record is the current time, seconds, month, everything. So, this screen, like, literally gets saved like this. So, press and hold, and there. It just beeped and said rec. And now if you go to the recall screen, as you can see, it says that we stored at 9:04:51 and blah. And you can store up to 40 different records depending on different functions. But we're going to cover that when we get to the record screen and different ABC functions. Now, when it comes to recording this time screen, I don't know, it might be useful to someone who has to track the time of a certain event, so you don't have to memorize when it happened. You just press and it records. I don't know if you're a witness to a murder or something. Oh, and one more thing. While in this home screen, you can turn on or off the auto EL. And the auto EL is turned on or off by pressing and holding this for 3 seconds. And as you can see, the auto EL just turned on. And there. When it says LT, the auto EL is turned on. So now when you put the watch level and you tilt it, the light is going to come on. Now it didn't come on because this is a solar watch, and when the watch is solar, it has a little sensor that tells it that it's not dark enough to turn it off. If I turn off the light and obscure it a bit and then do it, as you can see, now it works. Let's do it again. There. Now as you can see, it works because now it thinks it's dark enough for it to turn on the auto EL. Or you can turn on the light by just pressing this button. Now I keep the light turned off because it bothers me when you drive a car in the night and when you turn it keeps turning on. Okay, and that's it when it comes to the buttons in the home screen. Now to adjust the watch and to adjust the setup, you just press and hold the adjust button and the watch is going to get into the setting mode. Now over here you have the first thing that you have to select is your home time zone, and you need to do it because all the time the world time functions are connected to this, so all the other world times are going to be based on how you set up this. So you have to select your zone and you do it with the forward and reverse button, so you can go east or west. And when you set up the city, you move through different values with the mode button and you change them with these two. So now pressing the mode, we can do the DST or daylight savings time. So you can turn it like this. It's auto, so it's going to receive its signal from the radio tower. If you put it to off, it's going to be off, and as you can see, the time changed accordingly. It can be on, or if you know that you're in an area where you get the signal, you just leave it at auto and the watch is going to change the DST when it happens automatically. Pressing the mode takes you to the 12 or 24-hour selection. I prefer the 24-hour. When it's 12, then you have the AM PM indicator, or only the PM. If it's 24, you have the military time, and I prefer it this way. The next is the seconds. So if you reset the seconds before 30 seconds, nothing will happen to the minutes. If you do it after 30 seconds, the minutes are going to move by one up. You reset them with the forward button. Pressing the mode, you go to the hours. You can go up or down. Pressing the mode again, you go to the minutes. Again, you can go up and down. And then you have the year, the month, the date, and the day is calculated automatically. Now pressing the mode, you go to the key tone. So if you, this is how you activate the mute function. If you press the lower button, you have the little mute here. Now that means that the watch is not going to make any noise when you operate the buttons, but we'll turn that off because I like to hear it. Then you have the light. So when it's at 1, the light is going to be on for 1.5 seconds. You toggle it with the lower button. If it's at 3, the light is going to stay on for 3 seconds. And the last thing that you can do here is the power save function, which is this PS that I explained earlier. So pressing the lower button turns it on or off. When it's off, the PS disappears from the screen. We'll leave it on, and I explained what it does. And the next thing that you can change are the units for the sensors, and you can change each one individually, so you don't have to choose between imperial and metric, but you can select whichever one you want to be what you want it to be. So as you can see, different buttons change different things, and you can set each one individually. And pressing the mode button takes you back to the city settings. So if you missed any of the settings, you can do it by just moving with the mode button. However, pressing the adjust button doesn't exit the adjusting mode, but will take you to the latitude and longitude setup. So over here, you need to set everything correctly, and you can go again north or south with this. Pressing the mode button takes you to the east to west setting, and once you've set that up, when you press the adjust button, you finally exit the adjusting mode and you've set up the watch. Now the longitude and latitude settings are important because that is what makes the sunset and sunrise data accurate. So the more accurately you put the longitude and latitude, the more accurately the sunset and sunrise data is going to be displayed. One thing to note is that when you doing the setup of the watch, if you change the city, the home city or home zone, whichever city you select, the latitude and longitude is going to be automatically set for that city. So if you're in a different location other than that city but in the same time zone, you will need to go into the latitude and longitude setting and change it. Now it does it so that when you travel somewhere, when you select that as your home time zone, the sunrise and sunset data is going to be set up for that city. So it's actually a simpler way than having to set up every time when you travel to set up the latitude and longitude again. And that completes the setup. Now, one more thing that I wanted to say about the latitude and longitude. If you want to know it for your location, you can simply go to Google Maps, find your location, and press right click on the mouse and click the what's here. I believe it's the button. And once you press that, it's going to write in the bottom of the screen the longitude and latitude of your current location. So you can always change it and set it up easily. Now the next mode is the world time mode. And in this mode, you can go east and west with these two buttons, and any time zone that you select, the time is going to be displayed here, while your home time is going to be displayed in this little screen. Now, there's one more thing that you can do in this time zone, and that is turn the DST on or off for each time zone. So pressing and holding the adjust button will turn the DST on or off for each of these time zones. And one more thing that I wanted to mention is that, as you can see, this multifunction wheel, now that we're in the world time, it doesn't count seconds, but it actually displays the time difference between your zone and the world time zone that you selected. And you have to understand that this is now a 24-hour display, and the blinking zone is your home time zone, while the world time zone is this that's not blinking. So now this time zone shows 11, and it's actually 11 because it's half an hour. If you're looking this as a 24-hour clock, this is where 11 is. Now we'll move on to the 12, so you can see it there. Now it's at 12 because it's half of 24. So it's a pretty cool feature. And like I said, you can only turn the DST on or off for each one of these, and it doesn't have a time swap function. Now pressing the mode button takes you to the stopwatch. It has a 24-hour stopwatch that we said is down precise down to 1/100 of a second. So you have a start, stop, reset. You can do split times. So you start it. This is the start. This is the split. You press the split. The screen freezes, but the stopwatch is running in the background. You press the split. It resumes. And you have the first and second place. So you have two runners. The first one goes through the finish line, you press the upper button. The second one goes through the finish line, you press the lower button. And now you write the time of the first runner. You press the reset button. It takes you to the second runner, and pressing the reset button now resets the stopwatch. And that's it when it comes to the stopwatch. Next, you have the countdown timer, and it's a 24-hour timer. And you can start it, stop it, reset it. And if you want to adjust it, you press and hold the adjust button. And now you can adjust the hours, and pressing the mode switches to minutes. You can go up or down, and it can go down to seconds. So it's only hours and minutes. Pressing the adjust exits the adjust mode, and that's it. When it comes down, so now it's set up for 9 minutes. When it comes down to 0, it's going to be for 15 seconds or until you press one of the buttons. Now the next function is the alarm, and like we said, it has 5 alarms, with one being a snooze alarm. So to go through the alarms, you go with the lower button, and as you can see, you have the fifth is SNZ, and you have the SIG or the hourly chime. Now to turn any of these on or off, you press the upper button. So as you can see now, once we turn on the SIG, it's actually the hourly chime, and you have this little SIG displayed here. So moving on to the alarm 1, if you press the upper button, you can toggle it on or off. And as long as one of the alarms is on, the ALM is going to stay here. If you go to the snooze alarm, the SNZ, and you turn that on, the little SNZ is going to be on. And when the snooze alarm is on, it's going to go off at the time that you've set it up. And once you turn it off, it's going to go off again in 5 or 10 minutes until you go into this screen and turn it off manually. And to set up any of the alarms, you press and hold the adjust button, so it's just like the timer. And now you can set up the hours upwards and backwards. Pressing the mode goes to the minutes, again up, down, and pressing the adjust button exits the alarm. Now one more thing that I wanted to show you is that, again, this small multifunction wheel now displays again a 24-hour display. The blinking thing is again your current time, 9:16, 9:16, and this here line shows what the time is for this alarm that you've set up. So it's 1:59 or almost 2 a.m. and as you can see, it's pointing at 2 a.m. Now, like I said, remember that this is a 24-hour clock. And so this actually changes with each function. This changes its functionality, which is a cool thing. Now the next one is the sunrise and sunset, and you can see the time when the sun is going to rise. As you can see, the sunrise down here, the sunset is up here for each date. So you can go forward in time or backwards in time. Whichever day you select, it's going to tell you that the sun on the 7th of June, the sun is going to rise at 5:35. It's going to set at 20:43. So this is a really cool feature to me, at least, because let's say if I'm going on a bike ride, it helps me plan when the sun is going to set, so I can come back home before the dark falls. And also, again, as you can see, this changes. So now this is your time, your current time, and this is when the sun has risen this morning, and this is when it's going to go down. So again, this changes according to the function that you're using. The next function is the recall function, and I'm going to skip it for now, and we're going to do it once we do the sensor functions, because it's mostly for sensor functions also, although it does that recording of the screen of time, which I showed earlier. And the last screen that we have is the receive screen, or the RC screen. Now on this screen, the watch displays when there was a successful reception of the time signal. So the last time that it did it was today, so June 4th, at 3:12 a.m. So it was the second attempt of the night, because at 2 a.m. it failed, and then at 3 a.m. it succeeded. And as you can see, it took him 12 minutes to do it, because it starts at 3 a.m. Exactly at 3 a.m. So if it failed, it would have displayed one from the earlier days. Now, as you can see, this little triangle here disappeared because we were manually setting up the time. Once you manually change the time, the little triangle is going to disappear, because now the watch doesn't know if it's correctly set up or not. So tomorrow morning, once it receives a signal the night before, it's going to display the triangle again. So while in this RC mode, what you can do is you can start a manual receive by pressing and holding the lower button. And there, the watch is going to try to receive a signal now, and as you can see, this triangle blinks. Once it catches the signal, it's going to display the L1, 2, or 3 here. And once it makes a successful sync, this triangle is going to stay here, meaning that way you're going to know that it had a successful sync. However, this watch is probably not going to make it now, because it's morning. It's not 9 a.m. and it usually does it where I live. It does it in the middle of the night or very, very early in the morning. Now, if you want, you can check out my video where I compared 3 Rangeman and 1 GW 9400, where I manually changed the time on them, and then I put them to do the auto sync, and they all managed to do it. So that's it when it comes to this manual receive. To cancel it, you press the lower button, and there, you've canceled the manual receive. The other thing that you can do in this screen is pressing and holding the adjust button will get you into the auto receive on or off. So by pressing the lower button, you can turn it off. Now, what does this do? This turns off the auto attempts that happen 5 times in the night. And this is good if you travel somewhere, or if you live outside of the area of coverage of one of these 6 towers. This helps you save the battery and stop the watch from attempting in vain. Like if you know that you're outside of the signal area, you turn this off, because there's no point for it to try 5 times in the night and stress the battery when you know it's going to fail, or if you travel to a location like that. So you just go in here, you turn it off, and you press the adjust button, and now the watch is not going to attempt it in the night. Since I do live in an area where my watch does set up, I'm going to turn it back on. And that's it. Now pressing the mode button goes back to the home time. And this is it when it comes to the normal time functions of the watch. and we're going to do a second part of the video where I'm going to cover the ABC functions. Now I hope you liked this video, and hopefully you'll watch the second part. Thank you for watching, and bye.